This video is brought to you by Scooby Snacks. They taste like shit, but at least your dog will eat them. So, I just got done watching Scooby Doo and the WWE Mystery, and I gotta say, it's probably one of the worst Scooby Doo movies I've ever seen, but not one of the worst cartoon movies I've ever seen. But it's definitely up there. Now, I've tried to get this out of the way as best as I can, because this is like the 5th take I've done this, and I keep fucking up. So, here we go. You may remember that I did a video about this when it first was announced, months ago, and all the stuff that I wanted in the movie, of course, didn't happen, because this isn't a perfect world. Vince McMahon wasn't the bad guy, and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan are nowhere to be found. And the bad guy wasn't the ghost of Macho Man, but rather a spooky bear. But, anyway, the plot begins. Scooby and Shaggy are playing are playing a video game based off of WWE. Scooby kicks his ass and unlocks a super bonus round with Sin Cara, where he has to perform a dance-off, which is somehow related to his character and wrestling. And he wins, and he wins the grand prize for scoring a perfect score. And Vince McMahon personally welcomes him to go to WWE City, which isn't so much a city as it is a giant wrestling theme park. So they're on the way there. Fred sees a raccoon in the middle of the street. He freaks the hell out and swerves out of the way and ends up in a ditch. And John Cena and his posse show up to help the boys out. And Daphne makes the offhanded comment, "What's he going to do, pull it out of the ditch?" And what does John Cena do? Well, he walks toward it in slow motion, takes off his shirt, throws it over his shoulder, and the moonlight glistens off his sweaty, oily man chest. And Daphne, from that moment on, gets the biggest boner for him. And actually says in a kid's show, "Wow, I didn't know that wrestlers were so hot." And John Cena, through sheer muscle power alone, grabs the Mystery Machine and just yanks it out of the ditch. And we meet this hillbilly guy, this crazy hillbilly guy, who's pretty dark for a kid's show. He actually says stuff like, "Oh, you's all gonna die. There's gonna be a reckoning happen." Like crazy delivery and shit. And right away you're like, I bet he's the bad guy. Like in every single Scooby-Doo movie and Scooby-Doo cartoon, there's always the nice guy and the asshole. And right off the bat, you always think the asshole is the one who does the evil deed. But anyway, they're in WWE City, right? And they watch a match between John Cena and Sin Cara versus Big Show and Alberto Del Rio. And Big Show literally comes from a picnic with a picnic table and smashes it over John Cena, who of course doesn't job to it. Because as Spoony One famously said, the only thing that John Cena will ever sell is merchandise. And of course Michael Cole is on the announcer table by himself. No Taz, no JBL, no Jerry the King Lawler, no whoever the hell's commentating with him now. Just him by himself. Oh, and by the way, there's also a running gag with The Miz in a body cast because he just got mauled by a bear in the beginning of the movie. And he tries to avoid the bear in the beginning of the movie by climbing up a giant cutout of Triple H. He says, "Welcome to WWE City, where it's amazing and stuff." And it was like, "Save me, Triple H, senpai." And he gets mauled by a bear. So of course he's out for the rest of the match and for the rest of the cartoon because he's in a fucking body cast. And afterwards, the gang is invited to go to training camp. And at the training camp, you see famous faces like Sergeant Slaughter, Jerry the King Lawler, and Jimmy Hart. And they actually say, "Like Zoink Scoob, it's Sergeant Slaughter." Almost as if they were saying, "Like Zoink Scoob, there's all those other wrestlers people actually give a shit about." And you never see them again. They're only there in passing. They don't even say a hi or a hello. So anyway, you also learn about two other characters who were created for this cartoon, Cookie and his nephew. I can't remember his nephew's name. Cookie was once a wrestler, injured himself, has a leg brace on, can no longer wrestle, and his nephew wants to wrestle. But he's like, no, it's too dangerous to end up like me. I want you to be a fucking nerd instead and be a hacker and stuff. And do all those crazy 4chan things. And, so everybody goes back to bed. And then Scooby is drawn to... while everyone is asleep, Scooby's drawn toward this light, which happens to be... it triggers a dream sequence where he's beating the shit out of... anthropomorphic food items, and I swear to God, they actually use sound effects from Super Mario Brothers and various Konami games, just like Captain N did. And anyway, it turns out to be the spooky ghost bear, and everyone and their mother is trying to beat the shit out of him. Sin Cara tries to go for a drop kick. No, nothing. John Cena tries to fight him. Nothing. And the grizzly bear throws a car into a water tower or a transformer and runs into the woods. And you see Sergeant Slaughter there, just standing there. I'm like, come on, you can't throw Sergeant Slaughter in a wrestling game or in a wrestling movie and not have him do anything. You can't cock tease me like that. Have him throw a Jeep or something. Hell, it worked for G.I. Joe. And then you get the story of the Ghost Bear, as told by Sin Cara. And of course, because Sin Cara doesn't talk, he's forced to do crazy flips and shit with John Cena as his interpreter, as if he's a mystical luchador mime. And you find out that this is the spirit of a bear that got his ass kicked by Sin Cara's great ancestor, Sin Cara Grande, which sounds like a menu item from Taco Bell. And it turns out that the bear, got the last laugh, because even though he was beaten by Sin Cara Grande, he bit him on the leg and forced him to retire from wrestling forever. And I can't help it but thinking this is a metaphor for Cookie, because he has a leg brace on him, but whatever. So the gang, the gang's like, well, looks like we found ourselves a mystery, kids. And then the belt gets taken. The championship belt gets taken, and they blame Scooby, and they show Scooby breaking through security by doing crazy dance moves, and the hacker nephew's like, wait a minute, those look familiar, and he superimposes the game data from what Scooby was doing from the game and from the security camera, and he's like, holy shit, that's the dance from the game. Someone hypnotized him into doing that dance and somehow being able to perfectly go through lasers and disable security systems. But of course, Vince McMahon doesn't believe it, and he's like, well, you can redeem yourself only one way. You have to fight Kane. And Kane, he's like, grr, I'm angry because I'm Kane, and fire and brimstone and shit. And of course, Scooby and Shaggy are pretty much pissing themselves because, who the hell would want to fight Kane? I know his character sucks nowadays, but I still want to fuck with him in a dark alley. You know what I mean? So, so they attempt to train Scooby Doo, and during this time that they're training Scooby Doo, they decide to check out. They decide to use this time to look for clues, and Scooby and Shaggy go along with them. And they find this cave, the cave that the bear was at. And John Cena joins up with them too. And they find this room in a cave with all these schematics for the WWE building and books on hypnotism. Would suck really bad right now if the bear were to barge in while we look at all this evidence. Oh shit, there's the bear. And then they run away from the bear. And this is funny. John Cena's like, oh shit, it's a bear, I'm gonna kill him. And then he gets knocked out by the bear. And at that moment I'm like, oh, finally, something. The one thing that's John Cena will job to, and it's a fucking grizzly bear. But then he snaps out of it, and while everybody's falling off a waterfall with the grizzly bear following them, John Cena grabs the grizzly bear by the arm and whips him full force into the forest like he's from fucking Dragon Ball Z. So then they go to Vince McMahon, and they're like, we have reason to believe that all this crazy shit's gonna happen with the match starting, and Vince McMahon's and his PR advisor, I don't know, this woman who, works on things. She's like, no, it's too risky, it's too far-fetched, the match must go on. And so, we find out that this title belt that's locked up right next to the ring, where anybody can get to it, isn't the real title belt at all. It's made of iron, and it has electromagnetic pulse thingy on it. ESP, which John Cena somehow knows what it is. And it turns on and knocks out all the security systems and turns out the lights, but it's okay because there's a backup plan. All the wrestlers that aren't wrestling set up a bunch of rescue flares to light up the arena, and the match continues on between Kane, Scooby, and Shaggy. And Kane, the big red monster, jobs to a stoner and his pet dog. And the bear falls into the arena, and cage is set up. John Cena and Sin Cara are in there, and the kid who wanted to wrestle and comes up with a stupid-ass gimmick called the Bone Bender, or Bone Breaker, something stupid. He looks like metrosexual Legion of Doom. That's what he looks like. He's got a bright blue outfit with bones all over it, and they're all trying to beat the shit out of this bear. And John Cena somehow manages to pick the bear over his shoulders and powerbomb him and follow up with the 5-knuckle shuffle fist drop. So, let's recap. Kane, the big red unstoppable monster with supernatural powers, loses the match to a stoner and his pet dog, and John Cena powerbombs a grizzly bear. And they try to go for the pin, pinning the bear. All the wrestlers pin the bear's arms and legs down, and it's up to Scooby for the final blow. So Scooby leaps up the turnbuckle, jumps in the air, does a 450 splash onto the bear, which somehow makes the ring explode into itself, like when Brock Lesnar superplexed the Big Show that one time, and completely knocks out the bear. And you find out that it was none other than the crippled black guy who didn't want his nephew to wrestle. Now, here's why I have a problem with this. When I found out it was him, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be shitting me. When I found out it was him, I couldn't believe it. Because normally, a Scooby Doo episode runs like this. Gang runs into a spooky place. They find out a mystery. The ghost appears. They meet a nice person and an asshole. Immediately they suspect the asshole. But eventually they start building up clues that completely incriminate the other guy. They unmask the culprit, and it's the nice guy. It's usually the person you really wouldn't expect to do something as heinous as shut down a fair because they were going bankrupt. But you don't get that with this movie. The movie is 2 hours long, and you don't even get any bit of evidence that this guy could have done it. But no, they're like, it's like, oh my god, it's Cookie, how could you do this? And then Velma and Daphne and Freddy are like, well, you see, when he ruined his leg, when he crippled his leg, he couldn't be a champion anymore, so he devised a way to get back at the WWE, and it shows him building a bear suit, reading up on hypnotism, and having a mastery in hacking into computers. So this crippled guy, this guy with a leg brace, who's been training wrestlers his entire life, somehow has a mastery of robotics and engineering, hypnotism, just by reading books, and hacking. And yet, not a single bit of evidence throughout this entire movie even incriminates him a single bit. I thought it was good. I'm going to be honest, I thought it was going to be the crazy hillbilly, or Sin Caras Grande somehow still alive after all these years. And because even the old cartoons and even the old movies didn't insult my intelligence as much, because they would always show the evidence and how it would link to a specific person. Like they just get done talking to somebody, the guy leaves, and then they notice there's something on the floor that he or she dropped, and they're like, that's suspicious. This looks exactly like the thing that Ghost was using. None of that was there. They just happened to wander into a room with all this crazy shit, and they're like, we've wandered into a secret room with all this crazy shit. Let's just wing it from here on out. And no other evidence. Like, there wasn't any, spooky paint. There wasn't any loose clues strewn about. No, it was all conveniently packed in one little itty-bitty room. And yet, even with all this evidence, how the fuck did they even figure out it was that guy? Because, he didn't drop a hydrogen container, he didn't drop, lights or a book on hypnotism anywhere where he was. No, it was just in this cave. It was just in this little shack in the middle of a cave in the middle of nowhere. And I don't understand why. I mean, I know I'm overanalyzing a kid's movie, but goddammit, like I said, not even the original Scooby Doo cartoons insulted my intelligence this much. And in the end, they give Scooby and Shaggy the belt because why the hell not? Why the hell not? They did barely any wrestling at all. They didn't do any wrestling at all. They just ran around the ring, desperately trying to avoid Kane, and had a lot of dumb luck on their side. And even Kane's like, even though you kicked my ass, that was a good match. So they give them the belt. All the fireworks appear. Everyone suddenly has Scooby-Doo signs. And the Titantron, which, I'm going to be honest, I think this sums up the movie perfectly. The Titantron has Scooby's name in Comic Sans. And then the movie ends. I couldn't have summed it up better myself. It's been BigAl. Over and out.